If you find yourself in northern Norway, keep an eye open for the Arctic fox. If you're lucky enough to see one, you can thank a captive breeding program set up by the country's government.
The captive breeding for Arctic foxes was set up in 2005 as a conservation initiative. There were very few Arctic foxes remaining at that time in Scandinavia, as few as possibly 50 individuals. The aim of the captive breeding station is to produce pups, offspring, that are raised at the facility here, and then once they become adults, they are then released out into the wild, into various populations.
Once common in Scandinavia, the Arctic fox was hunted to the brink of extinction for its fur almost a century ago. A series of hunting bans between 1920 and 1930 saved the species, but its population never completely recovered. When the captive breeding program started, there were as few as 40 of the animals in the wild in Norway. That number now sits around 550. But because of climate change, the environment these animals are returning to is not the same as the one they left.
Mostly it's probably going to be through the effect it will have on their prey, and especially their preferred prey, lemmings and other rodents. If we get warmer and more unstable climate where you get snow melt and you get icing on the ground, that is going to affect how well the rodents can survive.
An unstable climate is making it harder for smaller animals to survive, meaning less food for foxes. To solve this, the captive breeding program also has an active feeding program, placing barrels of dog kibble out for foxes.
We have feeding stations for the Arctic foxes. Those are made up of standing barrels with a laying barrel where the foxes can go in. And then in the last standing barrel, we have standard dog pellets that we fill into it and that the foxes eat.
Norway spends nearly $300,000 a year feeding the foxes, all to bring their population up to 2,000. But without addressing the larger problems facing the country's and the world's ecosystems, even the most well-funded attempts at conservation may prove futile. Eason, Chen, and Bryn for TaiwanPlus.